Have you ever wondered how to transform into the most formidable role on the mats? Shocker, it's not just about strength, speed, or supplements. In fact, the secret lies somewhere else completely. In every single jiu-jitsu gym, there's always that one person left when everybody's pairing up and getting all their rounds together that you don't want to make eye contact with. And you dread rolling with them. You start doing this, like I get, every single day. Not because they're reckless, well, maybe if they're a spazzy white belt, but because their technique, their strategy, their unpredictability, and their seamlessness in technique makes them a nightmare to roll with. So you're probably wondering, how do I turn into that guy? In this video, we're going to delve into the 5 key strategies that you can implement right now to elevate your game and become the training partner that everybody wants to avoid. By the end of the video, you're going to have all of the actionable insights that I personally used to get a black belt in less than 4 years to not only enhance your skill set, but earn the respect, the admiration, and sometimes the fear of all your training partners. So the first key strategy is building links for your movements. In jiu-jitsu, technical prowess will most often defeat brute strength. And the most challenging training partners that you've probably faced are the ones who can seamlessly weave their techniques together into a chain of movements that leave their partner on the back foot, not those people who just rely on their attributes. How do you implement this strategy? First, you're going to take a look at all the moves that you're using to a decent level, and then you're going to use this framework. It's called if-then planning. If I succeed, then I'll do this. If I fail, then I'll do this. For example, if I try and sumigashi my opponent, and they put their leg out to stop me from doing so, then I'm going to think about putting my knee behind their knee so I can enter into their legs. If that succeeds, I go into their legs. If that fails and they sprawl their leg back down and away to prevent me from getting behind it, then I go back into my original sumigashi because that problem has now been solved. We're going to go deeper into this in point 4, but planning this way ensures that you know a directed path for if your move is successful and if your move is a failure. But either way, you now have a direction to go in your rounds based on the techniques that you're already good at, which is what a nightmare to roll with does effectively. Which leads me into my second point. The second key strategy is being diverse in your approach. All too often we see jiu-jitsu guys that pigeonhole themselves into one category, whether that be leg locking, whether that be guard play, whether that be the guy that sits on his knees and fucking stalls all round until he pounces right at the very end because he's been watching the clock the entire fucking time and tries to score on you and claim a victory. We know it isn't. And we know that they're pretty easy to deal with, no matter which category they fall into. So, what is your strategy in becoming a nightmare to roll with? Instead of one of these gooses, you have to learn how to be diverse. Don't just be a guard player that can't wrestle up. Don't just be a top heavy guy that never touches their back towards the mat. In my first 6 months of training, I was this guy. My back had never graced the mat for any meaningful period of time, or for any period of time at all. And the small success that I did have in the very beginning of my journey started to dwindle because my training partners saw me as somebody who would never go to their back, would never use anything else except Darce chokes, and therefore I started to become very predictable and easy to defend. I wasn't really a nightmare to roll with back then. Fast forward a couple of years later, and I can seamlessly blend in leg locking, wrestling up, sweeping, pin escapes, and all the necessary skills that would make me a nightmare to deal with. Which, if you've ever been to my training room, then you would know. Sometimes this leaves me desperately trying to gain eye contact with some training partners who aren't really all that happy that I'm the only one left over. But get over it. Being one-dimensional is the exact opposite of that and will ensure that you never become a nightmare to roll with. You'll actually be seen as a rest round and you're probably going to be pretty bored and have lackluster results. Which leads me to point 3. Moderate your pacing. The best in the world know that if you come out guns blazing all of the time and you never change your pace, not only are you going to accrue more wear and tear on your body and likely to get more injured, but you're actually going to be seen as somebody who's easier to deal with. It's those athletes that can change their pace, going from fast to slow and back to fast again, are the ones that add another layer of complexity within the techniques that they're choosing, which can open up way bigger opportunities as your partner assumes you'll be keeping the same pace and then all of a sudden you change the pace and now they don't know what to do. It's exactly like being an F1 driver. You're not going to just pedal to the metal the entire time and risk going into the barrier. You're going to use an undulation of speed where you're using smooth braking, fast acceleration, you're hitting hairpins and corners, all with the right moderation of your pacing and not just being one-dimensional, which makes them very difficult drivers to catch up to. Which is also going to make you a nightmare to roll with because your training partner isn't going to know what's coming at them at the speed it's coming at them. You can see an example of this when I rather slowly picked up a single leg in my match at ADCC against Mike Perez. For the entirety of the match, I was pretty dogged about hand fighting at the top level at a pretty fast pace. And then all of a sudden, I'm leaning down quite slowly and pick up a single. That was a thing that tipped me over the edge, gained an advantage, and allowed me to score and win the match. Which leads me to point number 4. Change your tactics. Something I'm constantly thinking about in my own training and yelling via a screen to my students in their matches. Link in description, by the way, if you want me to yell things at you while I'm roasting your technique in your matches, making you better. The thing that I'm yelling is upper, lower, upper, lower. Now, what do I mean by that? In a stand-up context, the nightmares to deal with are the ones who are constantly mixing pick singles with underhooks, Diashi Harai with snapdowns, and Russian ties with Kawuchi-gari. They're going upper body, lower body, back to the upper, back to the lower. So you're constantly in a state of anxiety, not knowing what's to come. If you want a great display of this, by the way, head over to Flow or the YouTube channel to watch Wagner vs. Merigali. Great example. On the ground, it's the guys who constantly use your upper body to gain access to your lower body, and then when you sprawl your lower body away, they attach back to your upper body. Just like we talked about in point 1. Having trained with guys like Gordon, Dan, Joseph, Luke Griffith, and Isaac, you get a real sense of why it's very difficult to deal with these guys because they do it so well, especially when you experience it firsthand. Which leads me to the 5th and final strategy. Go looking for the nightmare roll in your gym. It sounds counterintuitive, but let's face it. There's a guy in your gym you don't like rolling with. He does some of the shit we just talked about, or maybe he's just very difficult. But I dare say the reason you're calling him a nightmare to roll with is because he's doing things that frustrate you that are very effective. That annoy the shit out of you and leave you staring over the steering wheel after a tough session and considering whether you sign up to the Muay Thai gym next door. If you want to become like him, take the opportunity whenever it arises. Then, after the round, analyze what they're doing that is giving you so much frustration and try and think of ways, or even ask them, if they're willing to tell you, about why they're so hard to deal with and the things that they're looking at specifically, because it could change your game completely. You're always better off using the experience as a tool for growth than avoiding it completely, because then you'll just end up learning nothing, using the same boring moves in the same boring context ad infinitum until you've paid enough fees at Gracie Barra to get your black belt in 10 years. So there you have it. There are my 5 key strategies for becoming a nightmare roll in your gym. Ensuring that you have a diverse skill set that is applied masterfully with planning and a range of pace. Thank you for staying this far into the video. If you have, I sincerely appreciate it. And if you'd enjoyed this video, YouTube's going to recommend you another one that you're probably going to like as well, and it'll be somewhere here. So enjoy that one, and I'll see you in the next one.